Hey, what's up? This is Gary from Raz Rentals, and man, am I in a good mood because I finally found this Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles Troubles Afoot Ultimate Foot Soldier. I've been really looking forward to picking this up for a while. I know that people have been buying this on eBay and AliExpress or whatever it's called for a while now from people in China. I don't think that those are knockoffs, but I didn't want to buy it that way. I wanted to actually get mine in the stores, which I did. I got this at Target. I didn't want to do it for two reasons. Number one, I felt like, I got to support NECA a little bit. I got to throw them some money, but I'm not going to like guilt trip you and be like, that don't buy off of those people in China. No, like if that's going to work out the best for you, then I can't tell you either way what you should do. But, I just wanted to like actually buy it in store. Not to mention that even though I don't think those are knockoffs, they probably exist because when NECA was all done producing theirs, like one of the factory workers probably went in and told the supervisor, like, hey, look, we can print another 1,000 of these Ultimate Foot Soldiers and sell them to people in America for like $70 a piece. And the supervisor was probably like, zang, that probably made them a lot of money. So, but there'd always be this voice in the back of my head that would always be like, hey, you know what? Yeah, you bought that off of eBay from the guy in China. It's probably not a knockoff, but it could be. It could be a knockoff. And I'd be like, oh, I got my Ultimate Foot Soldier. And they'd be like, no, but it might be a knockoff. And I'd be like, shut up, voice. But I would still keep listening to it. So I finally got this because, I've been nagging the people in the electronics section for a while now. And also because I have a friend who I talk to locally that also collects toys. And when he finds stuff, he lets me know. So, big tip to you, make friends with local collectors and help each other out. That's the best way. That's how I found the Punk Frogs, same guy. And that's how I got this. I told him I was working today and he said, hey, I'm going to go up to that Target. If I see anything, I'll let you know. He let me know. I ran right up after work and picked this bad boy up. So let's get started here. So first I want to mention that I love the package art here. I think it looks amazing. Obviously this is probably digital, but they did such a nice job of trying to emulate that like airbrushed look that these other covers had way back in the 80s. That's fantastic. I like that they actually have the red foot soldier symbol and the yellow foot symbol on the cover here to try to, encompass every kind of foot soldier you can think of. And it just looks fantastic. It's such a nice homage to these old VHS tapes from way back when. And I need to find more of these things. I used to be able to find them in Goodwill and I never see them anymore. But these are great. And right down the bottom here, it says Volume 3. So let's talk about 1 and 2. So this is the third in this like deluxe figure series, right? And these all look amazing. I've been throwing out all my 2-pack boxes, but I've been keeping all these very awesome deluxe packages. Mostly because the covers look so fantastic. You have Metalhead, the Wrath of Krang, Troubles of Flair, the Ultimate Foot Soldier. Soon, hopefully, I'll get Mondo Gecko and then Muckman. And eventually, I gotta find that stupid Turtles in Disguise 4-pack, which I haven't found yet. But this is just, they all look awesome. They'll look great lined up on my shelf when I finally finish my collectible room. So if we take a look at the sides here, well, first of all, I should point out that the Wrath of Krang was the tallest of these box sets. But Metalhead was definitely the fattest, and the Ultimate Foot Soldier is the smallest out of all three. On the back here, you have some very nice shots of the toy included inside. Like you have Alpha-1 here leading these other foot soldiers with their weapons drawn. You have this cool little gun with this foot soldier. You got this foot soldier with the fan and that guy with the sword. And I'm going to explain what all these, where all these accessories come from in the cartoon. What episodes did they appear in? And just talk little tidbits here and there about things that are kind of cool in the show. And I also really love this picture here of this foot soldier kicking the soda machine. And I just think that's hilarious because in the first episode, Turtle Tracks, Splinter is trying to discuss and tell April, like, where the turtles came from, how Hamato Yoshi got kicked out of the Foot Clan and was, kind of like banished to America where he had to live in the sewers amongst the rats. And he's telling April about how, like, the Foot Clan is taking their tight grip on Japan and, causing like a crime spree. And what are they doing? Are they like assassinating like high-ranking officials? Are they kidnapping women and children? Are they like slaughtering other ninja clans? No! They're robbing dudes who are walking down the street with ice cream. And then you have this guy who's kicking a soda can machine. And I think this guy kicking the soda can machine, he's got to be like, the loser younger brother of some top-ranking foot soldier. And, the top-ranking foot soldier is probably like embarrassed of his dumb little brother, but his mom is like, look, you got to take Koji. You have to have him in the Foot Clan. He doesn't got any friends. You got to give him something to do. And he's like, oh, Mom, but all the other guys make fun of me. And she's like, shut up and take your brother in there. So, when they go out and rob people, he's like, hey, look, you want to help us out? Go kick that soda can machine over there. Yeah, you get all that soda. We need that soda. That's how we will take over Japan. All right, so you got the front cover here, and that looks all nice. So we already talked about that. You open it up, and you have a very nice shot inside of here of Alpha-1 standing next to these other foot soldiers. That looks pretty awesome. And over here, you just have this giant window showing the ultimate foot soldier with all of these awesome accessories and weapons, and they look fantastic. So I'm going to open all this up and get everything ready, see if anything needs warmed up or anything like that. Hopefully I won't crack any bits and pieces, but we'll see. And I'll talk to you in a minute. So here he is, completely out of the package. And man, this is amazing. There's so much stuff here. It's crazy. We obviously have some things that have been repeated a bunch of times. Every time they release the foot soldier, you usually get the plunger gun and like this rifle, but now we got it in a different color, and I'm going to show you where in the cartoon you kind of see it in this color. But this is just amazing because like you had the SDCC set, you had those initial 2-packs, you had the army builder 2-packs of the foot soldiers, and you could just build like a giant army of foot soldiers. And now you could buy a ton of these if you can find them, ultimate foot soldiers, and just completely build an army with new weapons. And you could also start making foot soldiers with the yellow foot logos on their heads. I would like to pick up more of these, maybe 2 more, so I could have 2 with the yellow foot symbols, because I know how I'm going to display this guy, and unfortunately it is not going to be with the yellow foot. I'm most likely going to display him with the Alpha-1 head, because that just looks awesome. So I am going to explain all the accessories included in this set and talk about where they appear in the show. Now here's a little shameless plug. A couple weeks ago, I released this video that was like the 2017 to 2020 NECA all accessories explained, right? Where I talked about every single accessory that came out from the beginning of the line until last year. And when this year's done, I'm going to put out a video that explains all the accessories in one video. That way, if you don't want to go through all of them, you can just watch that one and see what every single accessory comes from for this year's bounty, right? So check that out. Some of these weapons I talked about in excruciating detail in that episode or that video. And, I'm going to explain these again in this, but not as excessive. Like, I'm going to give you the abridged version of some of these items. So first, I'm going to talk about the brand new accessories, and then I'll quickly go over the repeats, and then I'll review the figure itself and discuss any upgrades from the original like SDCC set or the initial 2-packs or whatever. And finally, I'll end it all by discussing the Alpha-1 episode, Revolt of the Foot Soldiers. First up, you have this brand new sword sculpt, and this thing is pretty awesome. I love how you have like these little tiny cuts in the blade here. That means you're really like sawing at people when you're trying to cut them in half. I like the handle here. It kind of reminds me of like a scimitar or something like that. The handle's pretty big, and you actually have specific hands included with this foot soldier to hold this giant sword. This foot soldier came with a ton of hands, and only specific ones will hold certain weapons, right? So for this sword, you want to use these bigger gripping hands, and you can easily just plop that in there, and it works out well. I tried to stick this in one of my older foot soldier hands, and it was a little loose, but this seems like it has a pretty good grip, and you can actually get it so that he's holding this sword with 2 hands, if you like that sort of thing. And, this design is awesome, and it's also very accurate to the cartoon. This sword only appeared in Season 1. First, it appeared in the very first episode, Turtle Tracks. Whenever the Ninja Turtles are fighting the foot soldiers up on the rooftop, that's an awesome scene. And then you get a lot of good shots of it in the second episode, Enter the Shredder. This shot right here, looks just like this toy. This sword also has the ability to shoot exploding laser beams. That's pretty cool too. Up next, you have this very awesome spear, and this thing is so long, I had to zoom out a bit just so I can fit it all into this shot. It's very, very long. It's probably like 8 or 9 inches, I would assume. I don't know. I don't have a ruler on me. But yeah, it looks really good. Now, I'm really glad NECA went the extra mile here. I think a lot of times people would have just given you their normal-sized gripping hands, and then they'd be like, well, you got the spear, it's pretty thin. You just got to try to fit it in there and work it out. But no, NECA actually gave you a tighter gripping hand here. And this is the first time I think we've ever gotten these tight gripping hands, which is great. Because now you can actually fit the spear in there perfectly. See that? I mean, you're getting a very nice tight grip on that thing, so that's great, This thing isn't going to be slipping and sliding all over the place. So the spear, I believe you only see that possibly in the first and second episodes, Turtle Tracks and Enter the Shredder. I don't even remember seeing it in Enter the Shredder, but I know it definitely is in Turtle Tracks, You can see it whenever the foot soldiers are robbing this dude with eating ice cream. And you can also see it when the turtles fight the foot on top of the rooftop again. Up next, you have this very cool fan weapon. When I was a kid, I used to look at like the Ninja Turtles sticker book and be like, why is that dude using a fan as a weapon? That seems very strange. But, this looks very cool. It's very nice. Once again, you want to use like these tighter gripping hands. You can like sort of get it in the bigger ones, but, you're going to definitely need to use these for this. That way you can get a nice tight grip on that fan and have them hold it. I mean, you could turn it upside down and that's not going to fall out at all. Now, this fan only appears in one episode. It only appears in the Season 1 episode Turtle Tracks. Again, the very first episode of the Ninja Turtles with the foot soldiers. And, this thing has some, like, power. I think that maybe it, like, just kind of shoots a ray. And maybe it can blow people away or it can, like, pull them towards you. So I decided to include this version of the stun laser rifle in the, the new accessories part because at least they repainted it, That's cool. I think I really like it in this color. I think that the original looks very cool too. But there's just something about this being darker and you have these very cool looking purple barrels that, I don't know, I really like this. So NECA included some trigger finger hands here, which is great because you can have it and try to make it look like he's pulling the trigger, but in all honesty, you're not going to be able to get the hand up far enough to actually get around the trigger. It's being blocked by this, this piece in the back. This looks awesome. So in my complete accessories video from 2017 to 2020, I mostly compared this thing to the one that came with General Trag way back in the 80s, and I also quickly compared it with the brand new Super 7 Ultimates version that came with their Foot Soldier Ultimates. So like this is the Ultimate Foot Soldier and that's Foot Soldier Ultimates. I don't know. It's weird, right? But so basically the backstory of this gun is that this is sort of like the stock Foot Soldier or Bebop and Rocksteady gun from seasons 3 through 8, right? But it does also appear in Season 10, I noticed there's an episode with the Shredder where the Shredder pulls it out and tries to shoot the Ninja Turtles on top of the car. In Seasons 1 and 2, Bebop and Rocksteady use a different stock weapon that was included with the Triceraton infantrymen and stuff like that. But, like I said, if you check out that video, you can see everything I'm talking about. So you might be wondering, where is this dark version of this stun laser rifle from? Why would they include this darker version? Like I said, I love the way that this looks. I like the dark gray. I like the brighter gray on the clip here and the purple highlights. I think this just looks very, very cool. So where did they get this from? Well, so far, I've only seen it in the Season 3 episode, Making of Metalhead. And in that episode, Bebop uses this gun. All right, so up next, you have this little tiny laser gun. Now, as far as I know, this only appears in one episode. This appears in the Season 4 episode, the Foot Soldiers Are Revolting, the only episode with Alpha-1, who is, well, I'll talk about him in a little bit. But, only at one point does a foot soldier shoot this gun. It ricochets off some pipes and kind of warms up this device behind Donnie so Alpha-1 can steal it. Donnie can't hold it anymore. It gets too hot, right? So, the design, the way it looks in the cartoon is very similar to this. That looks good. There's a shot here where, like, it looks not on model at all. But, this gun also works really well, too, because it fits perfectly in his trigger finger. Like, look at that. It actually goes all the way to where it should be. That is good. Up next, you have this very cool security hat. I love this thing. I think it's hilarious just seeing the foot soldier walk around in this hat, Like, would you be that dumb enough to think that this guy is like a security guard? So if you were trying to figure out where this came from in the cartoon, it wouldn't take you very long because it appears in the very first episode, Turtle Tracks. Just like a lot of these items in this episode or this video. In that episode, April leaves the Ninja Turtles at Ninja Pizza because she wants to go investigate, the Foot or crime or whatever she's doing. She's always pushing to get her stories and stuff like that. So she ends up at this place called Manhattan Securities, or Manhattan Security, I can't remember. And when she goes inside, she sees this lady take a phone call from a scientific firm. And this lady promises them that, they'll send their security guards out and they'll protect all their scientific equipment. But as soon as she gets off the phone, she calls her foot soldier guards, right? And they come. And like I said, who the hell is going to believe that these guys are actually security guards and not crazy ninjas who are going to steal all their stuff? So she reveals to them while she's talking out loud that, these foot soldiers, even though they're supposed to go there to protect the scientific firm, they're just going to rob them blind, right? So I think that's hilarious. My one question is, who the heck is this lady, and why have we never seen her again? Like, is she in league with, I guess she's in league with the Shredder, but who is she? Is she like his sister? Is she, I don't know. I need more information about this chick. She completely disappears after this episode. You never see her again. And of course they notice that April's eavesdropping, and, she gets captured for the very first time. The first in a very long line of captures, kidnappings, and being put in booby traps. Next up, you have this brand new foot soldier head with the yellow Foot logo. Now, you might be wondering, why are there two different colors for the logo? Well, in Season 1, the foot soldiers all have red emblems here. And in Seasons 2 through their final appearance, they all have yellow Foot logos. Now, what's great about this is you can easily just pop the head off like that. And it can be a little tricky because of how the, it's like one of these kind of joints where you're trying to put it on here, but then it'll be like shifting to the side. So you can try to get that on there, and it usually goes on pretty easily. There you go. So now you have your Season 3 through, 8 foot soldier, and you can also pretend he's Alpha-1 before he turns into the, this. Speaking of this head, we might as well talk about the Alpha-1 head now. Now, this is the final brand new accessory included in this set, and I think it's great. I think that it just has such a creepy, crazy look to it. And I love how, like, he's just got, like, this giant head because he's supposed to be really smart. And, before I just run into that, I just want to mention again that, like, I love the contrast on this. I think that yellow goes with the purple so well. They're complementary colors or whatever. So easily pop the head off and put this Alpha-1 head on. And this thing is, like I said, it is huge. I kind of have a little bit of a hard time getting it in place. And I think that's as far in as it'll go. That looks about right. So this thing does kind of make him a little top heavy. Like, he will fall forward a lot. So you want to, you're going to have to adjust how you make him stand. But in that episode, like, once he gets the Alpha-1 head, he doesn't really hunch over like the rest of the foot soldiers. He kind of stands up straight a lot. And I just really like this thing. I think it's really cool looking. He has a lot of personality. And like I said, I need to get a couple more of these just so I can have some yellow foot soldier heads, because I'm definitely going to display this guy with this head. I mean, come on. Would you keep this in a box and never look at it? Like, that'd be crazy. So later on, I will talk in more depth about the Alpha-1 character, like, his origin and stuff like that. But, I'll just say this really quick, that In the season 4 episode, the Foot Soldiers are revolting. Shredder fires Bebop and Rocksteady because he's sick of them being failures, and he uses Krang's experimental brain wave enhancer to create this monstrosity. He wants somebody to do his dirty work that's actually intelligent. The only problem is he makes Alpha-1 too intelligent. Now onto the repeats. First you have the plunger gun. Now he can easily hold this with both hands. Just use the trigger finger in the right or left. You know, I always go right because I'm right-handed. And you can just use the regular, like the bigger gripping hand for this side, and he will hold that perfectly fine. Now, this plunger gun looks very similar to the foot weaponry in Season 1, but it's not perfect. You know, I think that maybe they took this design and kind of worked it a little bit, and eventually you got how it looks in the first arcade game. So there you can see it in the arcade game. And when you come back to this, you can see how this gun looks more like the arcade game than the cartoon version. So I think that, you know, this was probably just made originally for the arcade box set, and they just keep on giving you this, which is fine because it's such a cool gun. And when you look at this plunger gun, to me, it immediately looks like a weapon that I would expect to see in the Ninja Turtle cartoon. So if you're a crazy psychopath like myself and you care about all the crazy little details, here's one. This one right here is the brand new one that came with the Ultimates Foot Soldier. This is actually missing a lot of the black lines that was present on the original SDCC plunger guns. Like, you don't have the black line around this pad or whatever this is right here. You don't have the black lines on the handles. That's all on this original one. So that's a little bit of a way that you can tell which is which when you're, you know, trying to keep these in order. Next, you have the laser blaster. Now, I talked about this again in my accessories video. This too, just like the stun laser rifle, you know, they were both the foot stock weapons. You know, you pretty much saw them almost evenly throughout seasons 3 through 8. And, you know, either Bebop or Rocksteady would hold them in the Foot Soldiers. It wasn't like one would hold one over the other, you know. It wasn't an exclusive weapon. And, you know, this also was originally released in the 1988 series with General Trag, and also recently with the Super 7 Ultimates Foot Soldier. This also appeared in Season 9. It's actually used by some of Drake's minions after the Shredder isn't involved anymore, so that's pretty interesting. Up next, you have this very cool blue gun. I don't really know the name of this. It was never released in the original line, so I have no idea what this is called. And so far, I have never seen Foot Soldiers actually use this gun. I've seen Bebop and Rocksteady use it in Corporate Raiders of Dimension X, but in general, this gun is used by, like, humans who half the time are in league with the Shredder. I've only found this in, like, 4 different episodes so far through my my researching. Tony the Butcher Vivaldi uses it in the episode The Maltese Hamster. In that episode, he's in league with the Shredder. The next episode you see it in is Corporate Raiders from Dimension X. Like I said, Bebop and Rocksteady use it, and also these businessmen use it who are under, you know, the hypnotic spell of Shredder. You also see this gun in the Michelangelo Meets Mondo Gecko, and Mondo Gecko and Mr. X use this gun, but they have no affiliation with the Shredder. And finally, the last episode I've seen this in is a Season 8 episode. I can't remember the name of it, but or maybe it's a Season 9 episode. But it's not even used by the Shredder or anybody from the Technodrome or really any bad guys. It's actually used by people in our government. So, what's that say? I was trying to see if there was any difference between one of the original blue guns and this new one that came with the Ultimates. And the only thing I can really see or notice is that the yellow line that goes across here, it just seems to be a darker yellow. Other than that, like, everything is pretty much exactly the same. Up next, you have this sword. Now, this sword was included with Shredder. You know, this I guess it was Shredder's sword, but, you know, it could be anybody's sword. You know, Shredder doesn't really have any specific swords in the cartoon. So, you know, other than those swords you see in Season 1, you also see the Foot Soldiers use swords in the Season 3 episode, The Big Break-In. But you can't really get a good look at them. They're usually pretty far away. Other than that, throughout the series, you really don't see them use the swords too often. They're always using like laser guns and stuff like that. But just like the earlier sword I showed you, this sword fits in his hands really well. And of course, you can make it into a double-handed sword. The foot soldier comes with a plain ninja star, and this is pretty cool. And you can actually fit this into his tighter gripping hands, and you can actually fit it into his bigger gripping hands, which is nice. Because before you didn't have those tiny gripping hands, so you could actually have him hold them on the older releases. And you mostly see this ninja star like in the season 1 episode Turtle Tracks, whenever one gets flung behind the Ninja Turtles' heads on top of the roof. So one thing I do want to mention is that, and pretty much since the beginning, I think, the foot soldiers always have like a ninja star in their belt, like it's part of their model sheet or something like that. And unfortunately, they've never included that in the sculpt. And I was hoping that they would have did that with this release, but they did not. So, but you can see that throughout the show they very frequently have them. It depends on what they're doing, like how if they're like animating them too much, they usually don't put them in there, probably because they didn't want to have to figure all that out of moving that ninja star in there. They'll just leave it blank. Next up, you have this orange ninja star, and I love this thing. Like I love the color of it. And it's just very cool, and I always think about the first episode. Yes! This appears in the first episode, Turtle Tracks. During the rooftop scene, the rooftop fight, one of the foot soldiers throws one of these orange ninja stars at Leonardo, and this thing is kind of like heat sinking. So it kind of follows Leonardo around until Leonardo puts an end to it. Up next, you have the blue canister of ooze. Now, this thing is a little too big. You can't really fit it in any of his hands. You could, I think you can fit it in the Shredder's hands. Or some other characters, too, like the Rat King. But his grips are just way too small, even on the bigger-handed grip. But, yeah, usually you see the canister come in gray. But if you want to see a blue canister in the cartoon, then you can check out the Season 2 episode, Invasion of the Punk Frogs. And, there you go. Finally, the Ultimate Foot Soldier comes with a foot communicator. Now, these communicators first appeared in the Season 2 episode Return of the Shredder. It was the very first one when Shredder gets sent back to New York from Dimension X. Now, here's where I'm going to be a spoiled brat. I'm not ungrateful, but I'm going to be a little spoiled here because NECA was doing such an amazing job with these communicators. Every time they would release one in a new release, they would have a different picture on it. Like the original one in the SDCC set had the original Krang toy, and then I think the next one you got had a picture of Shredder on it, and then after that you got one with Bebop, Rocksteady, and then eventually in the Rock Soldier 2-pack you had this communicator where it has the Krang android body Krang picture there. So, for me, I was just like, I was hoping that it was going to be a different guy. Like, maybe they could have used, like, a foot soldier in there or something like that. So the foot soldiers could be talking to each other. I guess it, like, it makes sense that, like, if you were going to have multiples of any communicator, I guess you could have Krang. Because if you're going to buy a bunch of Ultimate Foot Soldiers, you're going to have, like, a ton of Krang communicators. Like, I thought maybe at first they should have had the Rock Soldiers. That'd be cool. So, like, Trag could be talking into his thing while you have your Krang talking into his communicator somewhere else. But, then you would have multiples of General Trag, and nobody wants to talk to that dude. So, in my opinion, I think that this set is worth it for the accessories alone. Like, I love these accessories. I'm glad that there was such a huge emphasis on the first episode, too, because Turtle Tracks, that's got to be one of the best episodes of all time. I know I love it. I love certain things in there, like whenever Splinter's talking about the turtles and you can see all the different colors behind them. I think that's great, And now with these weapons, you can, try to recreate your rooftop scene, the rooftop fight. I think it's amazing. And I really love that they included this fan here because was such like a standout weapon that seemed very strange. And it's just cool that it's here, I like that spear, and I really like the brand new colored version of the stun laser rifle. Like I have no complaints whatsoever about this set. This was worth $30 just to get all this great stuff. And then you got, you could have your yellow head or your yellow foot emblem version of the foot. Like, this is great. I just need to find more. That's the problem. You're always trying to look for more and more and more. Off the top of my head, the only item that I can really think of at the moment that I would have thought that they should have included here, but it's not that big of a deal that they didn't, is probably like foot soldiers with mouths. Sometimes when the foot soldiers get blown up, you'll see a brief frame of them like screaming, and I think that's hilarious. You wouldn't think that they'd be there because they're robots, but no, every now and then they just pop up like randomly. I don't know what's up with that, but it's pretty funny when they do. And speaking of blowing up the foot soldiers, you'd be surprised at how like, not that often do the turtles actually blow them up. Like lots of times they'll do something silly like tie them up in a fence or something like that, and you're like, I want to see these guys blow up, especially when they fall over. Like sometimes they'll fall over and just like go clunk on the ground, and you're like, I wanted him to blow up. One of my favorite ends for the foot soldiers is in the Usagi Yojimbo episode. Usagi Yojimbo just like completely decimates and chops these dudes in half like they're nothing. Like, even Leo doesn't get to chop them up as much as Usagi did. All right, so before I take a closer look at the figure, let's finish up the accessory section by talking about the hands. Now, first of all, I want to mention this. I've never been a huge fan of when NECA paints the figure's hands, because the paint always wears off. You're putting weapons in their hands, it wears off. You're trying to put it into the joint, it wears off the peg. That's never good. I believe that this is a hand from the original SDCC set where they weren't painting the hands yet. I wish they could all just do this. Like, why can't you just, make these in this colored plastic? This is fine. This is perfect. But these, like I said, they're all painted. And I don't know if you can tell with the bright light, but like the color that is underneath this paint looks pretty bright, So that's no good. So, a lot of these hands you've seen before. Like you've seen these bigger hands, these bigger gripping hands before. That's good. And then you have a set of trigger fingers, which is great, because you can have him use his gun on either side. You have a hand of these like reaching hands where like, you could have him like do like a cool pose and stick these out, or you can have him like kind of grabbing onto somebody. That's fine. And then you have like sort of like the flat hands, the karate chop hands. Those are pretty cool. You got a set of fists. Those are great, so you can punch your turtles right in the face. And then the brand new hands are these tighter gripping hands, which are great for, holding the fan or holding the spear. If you didn't have these, you'd have a hard time holding that spear. So that's great that they included them. So here's a closer look at the brand new hand that's painted compared to one of the older ones that was already cast in this color. All right, so you can see that there's a little bit of a goopiness to this hand. It's not that bad, but you can definitely see like little flakes or something like that on it. Not to mention this old hand that is made in this plastic is really, really hard. And this one is much softer. Like you can actually bend these fingers. Okay, so here's two foot soldiers. Now one of them is the brand new Ultimates foot soldier, and one of them is the original foot soldier, either from the 2-pack or the San Diego Comic-Con. Can you tell the difference? Do you know which is which? I'm going to give you 10 seconds. Shout it out now. Which one did you say? All right. Well, I'll tell you. This one is the original one, and this one is the brand new one. Now, there isn't much of a difference at all between the two of these. The biggest difference, color-wise, is that the purple on the original ones are just brighter, This one, it's a little dialed down a little bit, and it's definitely not anywhere near as shiny. Like, it's more of like a matte finish, where this is kind of glossy. And when you actually look at like the, say like the cell shading on the legs, let's see. It seems like, oh, come on, you stupid jerk. Don't stand up for me. All right, there we go. The cell shading on the original one is just, there's a lot more contrast. There's a lot more difference from the dark to the bright color. And I feel like these ones, they're just a little, I mean, they're not similar, but they're just a little closer in value. Not to mention that the pegs here are colored the brighter color, where these ones are the darker colors, and this one matches a lot better than this. Although they tried to line up this line a little differently. Here they went a little forward in the pegs. Here the line is kind of coming down in the middle of them. Now here's another difference I just noticed. The brand new one has this black ink line underneath the chin. That's even on the yellow head, so it was definitely intentional. It wasn't like a mistake or anything like that. But all my old foot soldiers don't have that. And the biggest difference between these guys is the hip articulation. You know, this was NECA's old system, which always seemed a little dangerous, like, because that peg going from this side to this side is very thin. And you know, if you're trying to turn the legs and you don't have any give, you know, it's just going to snap that rod. I really like the new system NECA uses for their hips, and luckily this foot soldier has it, which is great. Although I have popped one of these legs off of here, but because of the way the system is made, you can just pop it right back on there. Essentially, you have these balls coming out of the side of his pelvis, and the hip just wraps around that ball. So, like, when you turn that around, it just rotates around that ball, and that is like such a nice way of making these hips, because, like I said, the original NECA hips were not good. And I can't wait to get the Turtles in Disguise set just so I can have turtles with better hip joints. The biggest issue for this, and it's not even that much of an issue, was like when I was first trying to get this guy moving, like this hip joint in here, it was a little stiff, but now it works perfectly fine. And like I said, you know, this is great. I really like this. Other than that, all this articulation is exactly the same as the old figure. And just to go over the articulation real quick, here you go. You got, there's a ball joint in the bottom, the base of the head. You have another ball joint in the top of the neck, so you can kind of move his head all over the place, you know. His shoulders rotate around. They're a little stiff, though. And you also have a hinge in the shoulders, and they only go about, this one only goes up about this high, and this one goes up about this high. Now, I watched a video by Toy Shiz, and if you don't know that guy's videos, you should definitely check him out. He's a really good toy reviewer. I like watching his stuff a lot. And usually I try to not watch him and Toy Bro before I get my figures and do my reviews, because I don't want to steal from them, right? But once I saw he put this up, I was like, oh man, you know what? I'm just going to watch. I don't care. And in that video, he said that he had to warm up the joints a little bit to get them to start moving. And I haven't really had that issue. Like, I haven't had to warm anything up. Everything has moved very good. You have double jointed elbows. Those work fine. And then you just have, I don't think you have another cut here. I think this is all attached. You have a wrist swivel and you have a hinge here. And I think I forgot to say it, but he also has a cut. He's got a bicep swivel. All right, you have no upper torso articulation here, but you have a waist swivel, which is nice. I already showed you all the awesome hip articulation there. That's a good system. I like that. You have double jointed knees, and they work very well. Like I said, I didn't feel like I was going to break this guy at all when I was moving him around. I think things have been getting so much better for NECA since... I say this in pretty much all my reviews, since the Rock Soldiers. Before that, everything was super stiff, and all those Turtle in Time figures from last year, like Leatherhead and Slash, like those were insanely stiff. Like you could hardly get them to move, and these ones have just been, you know, working just fine. So you have a boot cut here so you can swivel the boot, and you have a hinge in the ankle, and you have ankle rockers. And finally, you have a toe joint, which is nice because you don't get that on a lot of NECA's figures, but you get that on these foot soldiers. One more thing I want to mention about this guy is that, you know, it is very easy to like pop his head off and change the head so you can put your, you know, your yellow emblem head if you want. Now, the older ones, I don't know if you can do this or not. I've tried to like pull this a little bit, but I got a little worried that I was going to snap something or break it. I don't know if it's possible to exchange the heads on the original foot soldier figures. So if you've been doing that, you know, if you've been popping them off and doing everything, just let me know. I'd like to know, because then maybe I could, you know, put this yellow head on one of these guys and retire one of the red foot symbols. If you were curious to see how Alpha-1 scaled with the rest of the NECA line, I'm pretty sure that this is I think this is at least one of every body type that I have so far. You know, Mondo Gecko, I don't have him yet, and Muted Muckman and Chrome Dome has not been released. I'm sure Chrome Dome is going to be gigantic compared to these guys, but as you can see here, he's actually pretty tall because of that gigantic head of his. He's almost as tall as Granitor, so he's taller than Shredder, maybe around the same size as Metalhead. Now here's Alpha-1 standing next to some of the Super 7 Ultimates. I didn't put Raph in here because, you know, he's pretty much the same body type as Leo. I don't know how well this works. I think, you know, this line is very different from the NECA line. I mean, he could possibly fit in with a character like that giant Bebop. I feel like aesthetically, there's something that kind of works between the two of them. But, you know, he doesn't match that Foot Soldier. He doesn't really fit in with Shredder. I mean, he could probably, he could fight the Ninja Turtles. I mean, they're just, Ninja Turtles pretty much always look the same, you know? There's not much difference between them stylistically, I guess. But, yeah, so there you go. Now here's Alpha-1 next to some of the Playmates toys. Now, obviously, he does not fit in with these guys at all. You know, but when I was a kid, what I would have done, if I got this figure, I would have pretended that it was just some kind of giant robot that Shredder made. Like, I wouldn't even have cared that he doesn't fit in stylistically with the other guys. I would have had the Ninja Turtles pound his face in no matter what. You know, that was the cool thing of when you were a kid. You'd get all those different lines like Batman and Ghostbusters and Spider-Man and Ninja Turtles and stuff, and you would just try to play with all of them. So, you know, no matter how you have yourself set up, this guy will look cool next to anybody. Alright, so that just about covers everything toy-wise. Now, it's time to take a closer look at Alpha-1 in the cartoon series. If you haven't watched much of the Fred Wolf series, you might have seen pictures of this guy, you know, this gigantic robot head on top of this skinny foot soldier body. And you might have thought, who the heck is that dude? Well, that dude is Alpha-1. Alpha-1 appears in the Season 4 episode, The Foot Soldiers Are Revolting. As I said before, the Shredder fires Bebop and Rocksteady because he's tired of them being stupid losers. He wants henchmen that are more than just brawn. He wants henchmen that are also brain. So he decides to take one of his foot soldiers and increase his intelligence using Krang's experimental brainwave enhancer. Unfortunately, at the same time, Bebop is playing a video game in his room because, you know, he's been fired. He's got nothing better to do. And this shorts the Technodrome power. And this causes the enhancer to overload. And boom! Alpha-1 is born. At first, Shredder is really happy because he thinks like, oh, finally, I have somebody I can boss around who's really smart. But Alpha-1 isn't having it. Alpha-1 lets Shredder know that his ratio incentive abilities have been increased to the 97th power. His intellectual capacity is virtually without limits, and he has the brain capacity of 4,000 sentient beings. So in other words, Krang and Shredder are now too stupid for him. Using his mental powers, Alpha-1 takes control of all the foot soldiers in the Technodrome, and they revolt against Shredder and Krang, ejecting them from the Technodrome. Now, Alpha-1 is on a solo quest of Earth domination. He wants to banish all life forms from Earth to Dimension X. As this mutiny is taking place, the Turtles are sitting in their turtle lair watching old videos of themselves fight Bebop, Rocksteady, and the rest of the Technodrome crew. And in one of the old videos, they notice something fall out of Bebop's jacket. Donnie says that it's an enhanced wave modulator, and that they should find it as soon as possible, just in case the bad guys ever think to come back and look for it. Apparently it's really powerful, and it would be disastrous if they had it. So, they begin their search. On the Technodrome, Alpha-1 is about to kick Bebop and Rocksteady out when Bebop tells him that if they let them stay, he can help them get the wave modulator. Alpha-1 agrees, and Bebop says he knows where to find it. Now, to me, this is really weird, just randomly Bebop was like, oh, you know what? We know where a wave modulator is. Like, Bebop is a moron. He's not even going to remember what that thing is called. Not to mention, when would he ever remember this thing falling out of his pocket? It doesn't, to me, that doesn't make any sense. Like, if he would have known that it fell out of his jacket and he needed it, Shredder and Krang would have tried to find this episodes before this. So, eventually in the sewers, the Turtles track down the modulator, and as soon as they find it, Alpha-1 just shows up to steal it. Like I said, how do they know? How did he know exactly where it would be? It doesn't make any sense, but fine, whatever. Now, there's a cool battle here, but, as always, Mikey's grappling hook is completely useless. You know what happens every time Mikey tries to use the grappling hook against enemies? They always grab it and they throw him. In, like, almost every other episode, he's getting thrown when he's trying to use this thing. Like they made Michelangelo into a joke. So at the end of this exchange, Alpha-1 gets the modulator, and he pieces out without Bebop and Rocksteady. So, Bebop and Rocksteady are a little lonely, and they're like, hey, Turtles, can we help you find this? Can we help you get Alpha-1? And they're like, yeah, fine, whatever, we don't care. But we're going to tie you up, buddies. On top of a large skyscraper, Alpha-1 emerges and starts zapping tourists to Dimension X. This is where he plans to zap all of New York to Dimension X. How? Why? With the dimensional displacement device, that's how, which he controls with the wave modulator. So, for being a super genius, this is like the dumbest plan I've ever heard, all right? Okay, he has to shoot every single organism with this device. It's not like it just beams everybody there. He has to actually shoot them with this beam. This thing can't even shoot through walls. As you'll see, like the turtles are on the street, they run into the building, and he can't get them. Because he can't shoot through walls. Like how long would it take him to shoot every single person in New York to Dimension X and then move from town to town shooting everybody? All you'd have to do is get behind him, and he could never do anything. It doesn't make any sense. And every organism, even bugs and stuff. Eventually, Krang and Shredder return to the Technodrome and return the humans to Earth. This distracts Alpha-1 long enough for Donnie to steal the wave modulator and kick the device towards Alpha-1, which now sends him to some random dimension, never to be seen again, which is such a shame. In my opinion, Season 4 and the vacation episodes that are the beginning of Season 7, I think they were supposed to actually take place between 3 and 4. They are the weakest seasons of the Fred Wolf series. The production quality really dips. It's even in Season 3, when they had a huge episode run of 47 episodes, you'd have a lot of good ones and some bad ones, animation-wise. Season 4 seems to be kind of the bottom of the barrel or something like that. Not to mention the stories just aren't that interesting. They're not anywhere near as good as 1, 2, 3, 5, 6, and 7, and I guess 8, 9, and 10 are pretty decent too. They don't even try to shoehorn in a lot of toy references, vehicles, and characters, stuff like that in Season 4. For whatever reason, they just decided to go about it a whole different way. So for me, The Foot Soldiers Are Revolting is actually one of the best episodes in Season 4. I think the story is really interesting, and I like Alpha-1 a lot. He's very evil, and he hates organisms. At one point, he says to Donnie, hand me back that modulator, you, organism piece of crap or something like that. I can't remember exactly what he says, but he is not a nice guy. And, it's such a shame that they kind of, just let him disappear after this, never to be seen again. Much like every other mutant or any other cool character that shows up in this show, they never use any of those cool guys after, one appearance. The animation in this episode gets a little funky here and there. Apparently the animators didn't, pay attention to the model sheets, because a few times the foot soldiers will turn into Alpha-1s for a single shot, and then the next time you see them, they're back to normal. So that's weird. Not to mention, they really half-assed the stock stun laser rifle and also the laser blaster weapons. You can tell that those are supposed to be them, but they just did not put the effort into making them correct. What's actually pretty cool about this episode is that in one of the scenes, April actually has a gun. You usually don't see that. And in my opinion, it's probably some kind of reference to the toy. You see this whenever Alpha-1 zaps the Channel 6 crew to Dimension X. They just show April, and she's like, oh my gosh, I don't know what to do, or something like that. And she's got a gun in her hand. And I was like, wow, that's pretty neat. So, overall, I think that this is a very good episode, and you should check it out if you've never seen it before. And, it's probably a lot better than my description of it. And in my opinion, my favorite part is when Shredder plays head, shoulders, knees, and toes, knees, and toes. Whew. Now that was a lot of information. Who would have thought there'd be so much to go over for a character who only appeared in one episode of the cartoon? But the thing is, this toy was completely packed with so many awesome accessories, a lot of them dating back to the very first episode, a lot of them that I always thought were cool when I was a kid, and I'm happy to finally have in hand. That's amazing. Like I said, it might not be that big of a deal having that fan, but it's just a cool item from the cartoon that, I remember. And that's what a lot of this NECA line is. Just a lot of really awesome stuff that I remember finally in physical form. So thanks for watching. Let me know what you think. And, if you're watching this on the 4th of July, have a happy 4th of July. And if you're watching it after that, I hope you had a happy 4th of July. So, talk to you later. Oh my gosh.